coming out. Trying to get my voice back. I'm Zeke Gonzalez. I am the Criminal Justice Community Organizer for Oklahoma Appleseed. Thank you. So that being said, I like to say in my position, I bridge that gap between community and law. Okay, more or less, I like to focus on the youth. I'm also the founder of Cedla 151, the little gym on the south side, which is right here, right around the corner, which is, I like to say, in the heart of the south side of Oklahoma City. You know what I'm saying? I was talking about fifth grade center over here at Capitol Hill, so we went to Capitol Hill Fifth Grade Center. We actually have a program there for our, Boys and Girls Club. We have a program out there also, and one, it used to be Jackson. What's the name of it now? Something Ross.
Yes.
So we have a program there. We also have a program on the east side of Oklahoma City at Urban Bridge, and we started another program it's the East Side Boys and Girls Club. That's starting up this summer also. And I'm also a mentor, and I'm also I'm a volunteer for STAR, which is it's life skills for kids that are incarcerated, youth that are in detention centers. So we're working on that also. My main thing is, the youth. That's where it all starts. Another thing is, I like to ask y'all a question, right? And y'all been like on top of the world, like being great, and then everything just comes crumbling down. Anybody been there? Raise your hand right quick. Who's been there? Right? So my story kind of starts with that. I was working at Tinker Air Force Base. I was a jet engine mechanic, about to become a supervisor there. I was going to school to become a supervisor there. I was going to college, and I had just signed another 6 years with the United States Air Force Reserve. And then life happened. I was sentenced to life in prison. Sometimes I look back and I think back and like, wow. But it was a time in my life that, like you said, it's adversity. You overcome these things, and you have to be resilient, and learn from them. And I recall the judge saying, sentence you to life. And for some reason, I felt a weight off my shoulders. Like I could breathe, a calmness. And that's only one person. I think that's God telling me it's going to be all right. And I have faith. And I recall just in shackles, walking down the hall and just like thinking like, oh, okay, life, okay. I don't know. I just had a smile on my face. I always had a smile on my face. My daughter knows that. She always talks about that, right? I'm like, nonchalant, it ain't that. It's just, what I'm saying? I have faith in myself and I know my path. So now I'm in prison. All right? But I never let prison identify me. I always identify myself in prison. That being said, I was a sports coordinator there. I started an ESL program in there. I was doing all kinds of programs. I was numerous programs in there. I just never let it stop me. And with that being said, I started an ESL program in there. And I was the director. I was in there. We was talking about it the other day. We had old books, like old. So I took sheets out of there. We ran copies, and I had my own classroom. All my inmates in there. I had 2 kids in there. I say kids because they're like 22, 23. Not knowing any English, learning English through the class, got their GED within a year. That's kind of people we are. We set our minds to it, we get there. And then God sent me an angel by the name of Colleen McCarty. You're probably familiar with it from Appleseed. And she came out and she talked to me. She was a law student at the time. She was working for Project Commutation out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So she comes out, talks to me. I tell her about my, the program that I'm doing and how my case was going, and she's like, okay, like Zeke, you don't belong here. Okay. Fast forward, she was trying to give me a commutation with a sentence reduction. So that means they're trying to reduce my sentence. So we went over everything. She left, she worked on it, and she got me a hearing in front of the probation and parole board. So we went in there and just, this is probably the kid's gonna get this. She was just in there, wah, 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 wah. She just went in there and I was like, wow, like, okay. So I stepped back. It made me leave the room. I went out. And then my unit manager at the time came out. And it's something that I gotta be grateful for. I had a lot of people always cheering for me. Besides my family was always there for me. I had a lot of people cheering for me. And she comes out, Zeke, you got the commentation, you know? They voted unanimously. Like, man, that's great. So there is my parole investigator. She recommended 20 or 25 years. Hey, to me, hey, that's great. That's better than a life sentence, right? You know, 20 years, I already have 4 in, 3 more, I get out. Good behavior. That's what we call good behavior, but it's not, it's just already points we accumulated. So, for 25 years, I'll be out 8, 9 years, I'll be all right, you know what I'm saying? So we're good. I did say I don't know what I'm saying. So, fast forward, now it's up to the governor of Oklahoma to decide 20 or 25 years. Okay? So I'll go back on my path in prison. You know, being a sports director, being an instructor. 3 days before Christmas, I went back from my class. I taught in the morning, then I had afternoon class. So our morning class, we go back for lunch, for count, then for lunch. So I go back to my unit. I was in faith and character program. So like, hey, our unit manager wants us to talk to me. I'm like, okay. You know, so I go across to the other side of the pod. She's taking count. The CEO's taking count. She goes, hey, yeah, you say you need to talk to me, Mr. Mayor. She's like, yes, I do. Let's go to my office. I'm like, okay. So we go into the office. She goes behind her desk. She goes, Zeke, do you need $50 for a bus pass, or can you get a ride home? Excuse me? She's like, do you need a bus pass, or can you call somebody to get a ride home? I'm like, Miss Mary, I'm not understanding what you're saying. She goes, Zeke, you're going home tomorrow. She said, Zeke, you're going home tomorrow. I'm like, can I get that phone call? So first person I call is my mom. Let me go back a little bit. So she said, Governor of Oklahoma signed my commutation, time served. Immediate release. So I call my mom. She's right there. So like, get on the phone like, hey, can you come pick me up tomorrow? And she's like, ¿de qué estás hablando, Ezequiel? She never calls me Ezequiel unless I'm in trouble, remember? I went to when I was little. So it was like, is that a bad joke or something? Like, no, Mom, hey, the governor signed my commutation, time served, I get to go home with Mom. And there was a silence. She goes, yeah, que horas okay, we figured out the logistics. And she hung up the phone. A few years later, I asked my brother, I said, what did Mom do? And she hung up the phone. Breathe, brother. And she cried. She cried. Still hurts. That hurt her. Me, I was fine. I hurt her. That's something I need you, the youth, to understand. You're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting your families. You're hurting your mom, your dad, grandma, grandpa, brothers and sisters, your kids. It goes beyond yourself now. You know how bad I felt? You know how selfish I felt? She's been there since day one. She taught me well, I just wanted to do stupid stuff. They both did, and my dad. So now I'm going home. I was in the car, and my little brother asked me, he's like, you gonna look look back one more time? For what? That chapter's closed. I'm done with that chapter. It's over with. We'll move on now. Start a new chapter. That's exactly what it is, starting your life all over again. Just imagine walking outside these doors. You have no job, no home, no car. If I say money, no money. Nothing. Walk out these doors. Imagine that. Starting all over from scratch. That's what I was doing. Starting all over from scratch. Nothing. Can't stop me. I kept going. I was gonna write my book no matter what. Scribbling, whatever, crayons, I was gonna write my book. I was there. Slept on my mom's floor about for a few months. I would try to apply for jobs. Remember, I was a jet engine mechanic, all right? I was a manager at Home Depot. You know what I'm saying? I owned my own business. I couldn't get a job because I got a barrier now, all right? You talking about my Home Depot job? So, there's another barrier. I'm a felon now, right? That's another barrier. So now I can't find a job. So my sister hired me. Did you hire me or did I just show up? So I just come in there and mentor you, you know? And then I started delivering tortillas. Angelica likes this story. So I started delivering tortillas. Hey, I'm not going back to prison. I did not care what was going on. I was not going back. I was writing my book, right? I got the ownership of that book. I can turn that page anytime I want, and I did. I got a job at AAR as an aircraft technician. I worked there for a few years. So I saved up enough money to open Cedar 151. And there was somebody here, Janie, that helped me with that. She's a big part of Cedar 151, guys. And Cedar 151 was my cell number when I was in prison. That's where I mentored people, talked to people. That was a sacred cell. You can go in there anytime you want. We can talk everything out. And nobody come in there and start no BS or anything like that. That's weird. And with Cedar 151, that came about while I was in prison also. I was in SHU, segregated housing. It was locked down 24/7. And I was talking to this kid. He was locked up. He was 26 years old. He was incarcerated since 16 years old for murder. And we shared war stories or whatever you want to call it, crime stories. He's like, Zeke, I never picture you being that type of person. Like, well, you know what? I got away with a lot of stuff, and I grew out of it. You know, I changed. You know, I grew as a person. And I respect that. I remember on the 7th day, we got our breakfast like always through a bean hole. Got our breakfast and everything. We was eating the breakfast, and we started talking like every morning. And I asked him, what would it take for you to change your life, a different direction in life? Mr. Rivera's response is like, somebody like you. That's why I do what I do with these kids. I don't want them to be in that same situation or fall in that. And that's one thing that I didn't say about Cedar 151. It's about emotional intelligence, overcoming adversity. You know, we instill integrity, you know, discipline. And that works just not in the ring, but outside the ring in life itself. I was training a kid earlier from Cali, from Los Angeles. And he told me, he's like, man, boxing saved my life. I come from the trenches. I was like, okay, you know, and he's telling me a story. He's like, he applied what he learned in the ring to life. He goes, when you get knocked down, what happened? You gotta get up. It's your choice. You gotta get up. And I believe in that. And I'll go back now that I work for Oklahoma Appleseed. I don't know if y'all remember Colleen McCarty, the name. She's the executive director of Oklahoma Appleseed. That's who I work for now. All right. She didn't believe in me only once but twice. That's why I believe in our youth. All right. You know, it's such a, you know, I'm gonna say our kids are our future. such a cliche, but you know what? That's the reality of it. They are. You know, and us as a community, we need to support them. We need to understand that sometimes we need to be, we need to come out there and we have to be, you know, mentors. And that's a big thing that I like to, we talked about mentorship. And that's a big thing to me, mentorship. To give them direction, to guide them to success. That's the point of it. The other thing is, the community and our youth, we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate ourselves with policies, government, seats, our Senate, all of that, to our wards, the smallest thing to the biggest things. Hey, I'm still learning right now. You know, I'm still learning. I'm not gonna say I know all of that, I don't. But imagine if I started learning when I was a kid, right? I would have built that platform, that foundation. I would have been president right now. Damn, I don't get nothing that. I know my feelings, so hey. Now do y'all get it? All right? So that just goes to say, hey, that's part of it. That's part of life, the being resilient, overcoming adversity. And as a community, we need to learn that. And we need to know the importance of voting. All of us, the youth, y'all need to learn the importance of voting. You know, that's going to divide. That's going to set the pace for us. Versus us going what we're going through right now, we have, you know, right? We're being reactive now versus being proactive. You know, that's the whole point behind that. The thing behind it is I like to say that I never let my past define me, nor somebody's opinion define who I am. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. What's up, Johnny? That's the thing. It starts to start somewhere, and then I think it has to be with leadership. All right, especially you kids, the youth. Start with leadership anywhere you can. School, church, you know, your community. Start a Bible study program, a book club, something to start that leadership, to learn leadership. Little things become great things, and that's where it starts. It has to start somewhere, right? Right, Gabriel? Right? When you come in there first day of boxing, you don't know what you're doing, and then you slowly start learning, correct?
Yeah.
You learn your combinations, your movements, and everything, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing. It starts somewhere. You know that, Daniel? You've been there. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it starts, right, Emerson? I'm gonna call everybody out. Ronnie, Aya. That's my granddaughter. Jace. Ryder. So it has to start somewhere. Alright? That's all I'm saying. Let's start now. Let's start today. You know, it's just like the whole thing was like, oh, tomorrow. It's like comenzando la dieta. No, oh, mañana. No, mañana. And okay, mañana turns into a week, to a month, and we don't, you know. So let's start today. Alright? And that's my thing behind it is, I always like to say is, see, I got stuck on it. Today's the day. Today's gonna be a great day. Thank you.